the tragedy, in a way, is that Canada was one of the countries least affected by the global turndown in 2008, but simply because of the reality of the situation is likely to get dragged off that cliff along with the United States and Western Europe unless we change things really in the next 2 to 5 years.
The Swiss have a government like the one you're suggesting, where the parliamentarians are part-time.
Yes.
They actually have a life. They have a job away from Parliament. They sit for about 3 months a year, and the Swiss citizens, by way of constitutionally enshrined referenda 3 times a year, instruct their government on which laws will and will not pass.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong.
It's a great system. It's direct democracy.
I think direct democracy has potential pitfalls, but representative democracy, which is what the Westminster system is supposed to be, fails when you have a permanent political class that essentially remunerates itself so lavishly that it comes to think of itself as an elite and as a permanent government class, and that is the problem in Canada. I mean, even to sit here talking about, you mentioned Jennifer Lynch earlier. She's Canada's chief censor. I'd never heard of her until I attracted her attention and was dragged in front of the Human Rights Commission, and I started looking up her biography. She's got every bauble the Canadian state can confer on her. She's a Queen's Counsel. She holds the Queen's Jubilee Medal. I've no idea what she was given it for, but Canada is very odd in that there's a group of people who have everything the Canadian state can give to them, and then there's a whole bunch of other people who get nothing. And the idea, I mentioned, I was speaking in Ottawa last night, and I mentioned at one point that when Michaëlle Jean had been nominated to be Governor General, and it was said that she wasn't particularly qualified for the job. She just introduced, lousy pro-Castro documentaries a couple of times a week on the CBC. And yet somehow it's entirely normal for a sort of pretend separatist who hosts pro-Castro documentaries on the CBC to become viceroy, the highest office in Canada, yet it would be extremely controversial if anyone were to propose making my pal Ezra Levant a Governor-General, or putting him in the Order of Canada. And I think that's the real danger here, the brain-dead uniformity and parochialism of the government class, which means it's simply not nimble enough to face this whole sliding off a cliff situation that's looming in the next couple of years.
We have about a minute. As you look at what's happening in the United States, and you're based in the U.S., what do you expect will occur Sunday night as far as the election is concerned? We have the Tea Party movement. Do you have a sense that in Canada there may be the kind of political attitude starting to build which would create dynamics similar here to the Tea Party movement in the U.S.?
Yes, I think the Rob Ford victory in Toronto is actually a very good example of that, where what was perfectly obvious to people living in certain Toronto suburbs came like a thunderbolt to all the people who made the mistake of listening to the CBC and reading the Globe and Mail. The people who read the Globe and Mail and people who write the Globe and Mail watch the CBC and figure that it was going to be an extremely close election, and then the people who report the news on the CBC read the Globe and Mail and figure it's going to be a close election. They're a self-reinforcing echo chamber. And what is going to happen, what happened in Toronto and what is going to happen on Tuesday night south of the border is that the people are going to puncture that echo chamber, and this cosseted, insulated government class is going to hear the voice of the people. That's always very healthy. If the American elite doesn't get that message, then really the whole of 1776 and the Revolution was a waste of time, because King George III wouldn't have done. If George III was on the ballot on Tuesday, he'd be the small government guy. He wouldn't be. He didn't have the tax plans for you that the Democratic Party does. And I think this is the real issue facing almost every Western country today: the unsustainability of the big government state.
Mark Steyn tomorrow at London Centennial Hall with people coming from as far away from as California to hear you. The speech will be, the title's Head for the Hills, Why Everything in Your World is Doomed. Mark, thank you so much for the time.
Hey, great pleasure, Roy.
All the best.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Mark Steyn on The Roy Green Show.